Hello, one and all. This is my review of Ascendance Bookworm Part 5, Volume 1. And I know I am really late for getting this video out, given that Part 2 has already been released. I'm sorry about that, but I've been so freaking busy. I had a PhD defense to prepare for, and I'd love to say that, the time was worth it, but no, it wasn't. I failed so badly. Holy mother of God, it was brutal. And, so, yeah, now I'm making YouTube videos again. Huzzah! I'll probably defend again, November, hopefully. We'll see what happens with that. I'm still waiting to hear back from most of my committee, honestly. They've kind of ghosted me, which is also very concerning, but let's not worry about that and focus on this volume. As we open up with Hildebrand's debut, as he's announced that he's going to be married to Letizia, Ferdinand's kinda sorta adopted new daughter, and that kinda sucks for him because marrying her means he'll no longer be a royal, but instead will be an archduke candidate, or archnoble. Archduke candidate or archnoble? I'm not actually sure. Let's say archnoble. And he's, in case you've forgotten, still madly in love with Myne, which is even sadder because this volume, Myne describes him as an adorable younger cousin. Oh god, poor Hildebrand. But then Raublet, definitely pronouncing that wrong. Anyway, he shows up, the commander of the Sovereign Knights, and tells him, hey, if you find the magic Bible, you can become king, and then do whatever the freak you want. Marry whoever you want. And I'm obviously getting some very clear Ivory Tower vibes here. I mean, we have a young man down the dumps, led astray by a trusted ally. He even freaking says, children are prone to be manipulated. Good freaking lord. So, yeah, obviously this is a trap, and Raublet is obviously evil. In fact, considering that, this is how they're starting off Part 5, I'm gonna assume this dude is gonna be like the big bad villain of the rest of this series. And I'm also going to guess that he's like one of those seed things like Ferdinand, meaning he has royal blood, and he wants Hildebrand to find the Bible so he can steal the Bible and then become king. Muhahaha. Love it. Oh, and then we have Hildebrand's mother, who unknowingly encourages him to go after the throne and mines, since, that's what she did, and that's what those from the Ditter Duchy would do. Not gonna lie, I kinda love her already. But anyway though, then we flash over to Myne, as she's dealing with the Veronica faction, and honestly, this might be the best volume of Wilfrid we've ever gotten. Other than Angelica beating him up and Ferdinand first tutoring him. Because he and Myne are in complete agreement about sparing the Veronica faction, despite the fact that he spent the last few years utterly and completely hating them for both tricking him and poisoning Myne. But now he supports Myne and her desire to save them, even going so far as to forgive/ignore a student who tried to break quarantine and warn his family, with Wilfrid saying, "Your compassion spared me once." Good lord, Wilfrid, that is actually impressive, and you're finally sounding like a half-decent fiancé. Good for you. Oh, and he also carried Myne's stuff to class, which is just so absolutely adorable, and actually made Hannelore jealous. Oh, I love it. Anyway, though, then we get to the actual purge itself, and it's not too terrible. Only 10 people were actually executed, with one of them being Matthias' father, though I have some real doubts about this dude actually being dead, since he wasn't technically executed. Rather, he blew himself up, and all that was left was a hand to identify him. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting some real Peter Pettigrew vibes here, leaving behind just a finger to fake his death, and then going off to live as a rat, which honestly, he was always a rat. But regardless, as a result of this minor purge, only a small number of students actually need to give their names. Charlotte gets Cassandra, and Wilfrid gets Bartold, which is, a bit concerning, considering his own fiancé describes him as controlling, aggressive, attention-seeking, and utterly and completely obsessed with Veronica, while deeply hating Sylvester for locking her up. Which, I'm sure won't be a problem considering that he's now serving one of the most gullible characters in this entire series. Oh boy, that's gonna be an issue. That's gonna be a really, really big issue. But though, the rest of them decide to serve Myne. Matthias and Lawrence become her new knights because they're incredibly grateful that she led the charge to spare them and the other Veronica faction students. Muriella, Morelia? I'm gonna say Muriella becomes her scholar because she wants to work for Elvira, writing love stories, and because her mother was executed despite being innocent, she gave her name to Georgine, but was too busy to actually attend the Let's Take Down Ehrenfest meetings. Sylvester gives her a lot of leeway and agrees to let her become Elvira's namesworn after she graduates. And while that's super nice of him, overall, Muriella is kind of disappointed since she figured, okay, now I'm going to serve Myne, and I spent all my time reading love stories and talking about love stories with the other retainers. Turns out, none of her co-workers are actually interested in love stories. I absolutely do love Lenore, who's basically like, yeah, I loved those stories once, but now I'm part of them, and it's so embarrassing. Love it, absolutely love it. But anyway, though, despite all of that, she's still really determined to do her work properly, and Feline actually introduces her to someone from another duchy who is equally obsessed with love stories, and they immediately hit it off, so you know what, good for her. She's had a very rough semester, but seems like it's on the upswing for her. Huzzah! Meanwhile, Greta didn't actually need to give her name because her parents, or adopted parents, weren't executed, but she still really wants to because she has one of the saddest backstories I've ever seen in this entire series, and that is really saying something, as she was born in the temple to a blue priest and blue shrine maiden. And I don't know if the timeline works out well here, but I do have to wonder if she might actually be Chakotsa's daughter. I mean, her father was never named, and she has bluish green eyes, he had green hair. I don't know, that might actually make some sense, but I'm not entirely sure. If anyone knows for certain, please let me know down below. But anyway though, her parents actually lived pretty good lives in the temple before the Purge, since that's when, everyone was being showered with gifts, money, all that fun stuff. But then after they found out she was pregnant, her family brought her back home and then treated her basically like a slave, putting her locked up and never letting her have any fun whatsoever, with her even saying that her life was better in the temple and blaming Greta for it. And then when they found out that Greta actually had an insane amount of mana, or at least a fairly decent amount of mana, her uncle and aunt adopted her and then just treated her absolutely awfully, basically saying that her only value was as a political marriage. And she was just teased so much by her brothers who called her Temple Girl, and then Cow because, yeah, despite her young age, she developed very early and to such a degree that even Myne can't help but stare. Oh, I love you, Myne. And now that her parents have been, well, not executed, but are found guilty of committing crimes, she knows that her only marriage candidates are going to be just the absolute worst people imaginable, and that her father is going to be very desperate to marry her off, so her only shot is to actually be with Myne, is to actually serve Myne. And, oh god, the saddest thing about all of this is the fact that you can tell from the way she's talking that she's actually afraid that someone, that even Myne, even someone who was basically raised in the temple, who shows compassion to orphans and commoners and all of that, will still reject her. And Myne is so moved by all of this that she actually says, my job is to protect that smile. Love it. Absolutely love it. And then it comes time for them to actually prepare the ingredients for the name swearing, so they go to the gathering spot, and I kept expecting this to be this awful, terrifying thing, like something bad was going to happen, but no, it was peaceful. It was actually a picnic, and Myne got to read books while reclining in the sun. Which, fun fact, is how I read most of part 3. God, that was a great summer, seriously. Me in the backyard, and recliner, my dog swimming, I could not have been happier. Anyway, though, she can't relax too much because Ferdinand actually sends her a recording saying, come in first place and have everyone pass day 1 or I'm taking away your library. Which, yeah, terrifying. Utterly and absolutely terrifying for all three Archduke candidates. Anyway, though, that happens fairly easily, and the rest of the volume is basically just focused on Myne's three joint research endeavors, with the Ditter Duchy, the Smart Duchy, and the Evil Duchy. First off, the Ditter Duchy agrees to work with Ehrenfest to investigate divine protections, since they usually get war protections, which is pretty impressive. Not everybody does. Though that's not as impressive as Myne, who gets more than 40. More than 40 gods are like, hey, I see you, you're awesome. And while I don't know exactly how many subordinate gods there are, I'm assuming that Myne got most of them. Meanwhile, Wilfried gets 12, which is also an absolutely insane number, and Feline gets an entirely new element with the Goddess of Wisdom, which is something that only happens like once every century or so. Meanwhile, Roderick becomes full-on omni-elemental, meaning this boy gained 5 freaking elements, which is completely and absolutely unheard of. And Hischer and Gandalf want to know what Myne did to cause this, and Myne is actually pretty ticked off here because the answer is obvious. It's in the textbook, and Myne even said it, but nobody listened. As it turns out, praying is actually important in a world where prayer can trigger magic and is a requirement for farming. Who'd have thunk it? So yeah, all you need to do to get more blessings is pray, and pray sincerely. And since the Ditter Duchy prays before and after each dinner match, they tend to get more blessings. And this whole theory is kind of confirmed since Hannelore, a girl absolutely famous for her bad timing, got the protection of the god of time, because she was always praying for better timing. Though I will admit, for a second I thought, okay, maybe Hannelore actually was always blessed by the god of time, and all her bad timing was actually good timing, since it led to her becoming friends with Myne, but no, she just got the protection because she just kept praying all the time, like, please, God of time, stop messing with me. Why must you make me suffer? Love it. Honestly, I kind of want Myne to start leading like a morning prayer group, just to grind up some prayer experience with all the students. I mean, I absolutely love it if the current second years all got multiple protections next year. Oh, that'd be amazing. Unfortunately, these protections are also a curse for Myne, since she now has way too much mana and can't control it all, leading to her accidentally blessing everyone in music class and literally shining during dedication whirling practice. Which, as you might imagine, is super embarrassing, so she and her siblings all think of ways to drain her mana, and I love how all three suggestions really encapsulate the characters. First off, the practical Charlotte basically says, hey, let's call home and get every Fey Stone and magic tool they need charging, which is great. She's really focused on protecting the duchy as overall and just really helping them out. Meanwhile, the unstable warrior Wilfried basically just says, okay, let's go to the gathering spot, gather everything, then you can replenish it, then we can gather everything again, over and over again, tell people to prepare for the Lord of Winter. He's focused on the battle coming up. And Myne, the unwilling saint, basically says, okay, every student in the dormitory, bring me your Fey Stones, bring me your magic tools, and I will charge them for you. Which is absolutely amazing, since Raublet at the start of this volume even said, no noble would freely give up mana. And here, Myne is actually doing that. And everyone is more convinced she's a saint when she's like, I'm just trying to be practical here. I'm just trying to do what I need to survive. And everyone keeps praising me for it. It's weird. Love Myne. Absolutely love Myne. Anyway, though, then there's the Smart Duchy, who decided to work with Ehrenfest to research Fey plant-based paper. And I absolutely do love Gandalf here, the Smart Duchy's advisor, telling Myne that she can delegate her work to others. In fact, as an Archduke candidate, she's supposed to delegate her work to others. It's honestly weird that she even does her own brewing. Gandalf's like, why? Why are you doing this? Why do you even know how to brew as an Archduke candidate? That's weird, girl. Who's raising you this way? Love it. And while Gandalf is clearly trying to manipulate her, his advice is really good, and Myne uses it to her own advantage as a means of selling people on the value of plant-based paper so she can up its value when she eventually sells it down the road. I mean, honestly, I'm sure Benno would be so absolutely proud if he heard that. Plus, she can delegate this work to the Veronica faction as a means of both upping their reputation and keeping the methods of creating paper a secret, since they don't actually know how paper is made. Genius, absolutely genius. And then we have the Evil Duchy, with their joint research mainly being Myne, using her overwhelming mana to create the prototypes that Raymond designed but couldn't actually build. And I do love Myne using this research as an incentive/threat to keep Fraularm, the advisor for the Evil Duchy, from messing with her too much. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, as Fraularm still gives Myne the 5th year test instead of the 3rd year test. But much to her shock and dismay, Myne still gets every question right because Ferdinand has already taught her the content of literally every single class and elective taught in the Royal Academy. Insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, I know everyone's like, oh, well, Myne's only doing this because Ferdinand's such a great teacher, but no. No matter how smart or brilliant or skilled Ferdinand actually is, it wouldn't work unless Myne already had a genius level of intelligence, a genius level of memory, or else she would have already forgotten most of this. But anyway, though, then just as Myne goes to leave Fraularm's office, she asks about Myne's health. And while this seems innocent enough on the surface, given that Myne is incredibly sickly, the way she asks it makes me think that Fraularm is expecting Myne to get sick. I think Fraularm was in, or at least informed about the plan to poison Myne, and is expecting the poison to kill her any day now, which is going to be very awkward for her when Myne, just keeps living. Oh, I love it. Anyway, though, then Myne attends a tea party with the royals, and is basically kind of sort of ordered to serve as a high bishop to bless the first prince's wedding, since everyone thinks that Myne's graduation blessing was a sign the gods wanted Eglantine to marry the next king. Which, as you might imagine, caused everyone a lot of headaches. Oh god, Myne just really, really messed stuff up here. And, oh god, I absolutely love this girl. Because when Myne sent Sylvester an update about this, she actually said, I asked the royal family to get your permission, so do all you can to put them in your debt. Good freaking lord, Myne! You're actually trying to extort royalty here for a task they're giving you because you messed up. Holy mother of God. I mean, I know I said before that Benno would be proud, but I think even he'd panic in this moment. And I think eventually Sylvester and/or Ferdinand are going to have a very serious conversation with him about exactly what he taught Myne. Love it. Absolutely love it. Then we get the Ditterduch Tea Party, where they learn that where the Ditterduchy learns Hartmut was sent to the temple, and they assume it's because he's done something absolutely awful, which, does make sense considering that he is an arch noble serving as an archduke candidate who came first in his class. So yeah, he is an absolute freaking genius, and the only reason why they'd send someone that valuable to someplace as awful as the temple, a place known for its filth and debauchery, is because he must have just gone absolutely insane and killed a bunch of people. But Myne assures them that wasn't a punishment, and Clarissa, his fiancée, is just so absolutely proud of him, and doesn't even bother reading his note and just raves how awesome Myne was, until her own duchy basically disowns her and tells Myne that she's her problem now. Holy mother of God, Myne. Love you. Anyway, though, then Myne falls ill, but not till after the tea parties are over, showing that she is clearly stronger thanks to the Drureve healing and is doing really good. And this just really resonated with me because, I was in a pretty similar situation when I started reading the series. If I overexerted myself, I'd end up, burning up and basically bedridden for quite a while. But like Myne, I'm doing better now. In fact, I actually got back from a week-long trip to California, and while I'm certainly suffering a bit because of it, that same trip would have absolutely killed me even just a year ago. So, good for me and good for Myne, we're both doing better. Huzzah! Anyway, though, the Myne finally gets a response from Ferdinand, and, he does praise her for passing all her classes on day 1, but then also says, how do you even cause so many problems in such a short amount of time? Which, I mean, makes sense. This first semester has already gotten insanely chaotic. And overall, his letter's really sad, long, full, and he misses Aaron Fest in his research. And he was just forced to write a super long, clean letter to hide his hidden message, going on about, oh, yes, Letizia, she's so nice, she's so kind, we're teaching about this, I'm doing this, then they're doing this, blah, 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 blah. So that he can, secretly get to mine a whole bunch of information about Ardensbeck, the temple, the chalices, and the fact that even Detland doesn't seem to know that Letizia is going to be the next Archduke, not her, which is very interesting. So Myne sends all information to Sylvester, and Ferdinand also has information about the archives, which Myne sends to the royal family and to the library. Huzzah! And then we get the epilogue, which is focused on Lestalot, Hannelor's brother, who is in fact a very talented artist, and a bit of a tsundere, who is in fact super excited for the hairpin that Myne and Thule made for his fiancée. Honestly, I was kind of surprised about this, because I don't really know what kind of major role he'd play moving forward, given this is an epilogue. It's a foreshadowing what's coming next, but... oh yeah, this is going to be relevant. This is absolutely going to be relevant next volume, and I'm so excited for it. Anyway, though, as I was saying, he's a very talented artist, and he is obsessed with the illustration in Myne's book, even saying that text is no more than support for the illustrations. Which is just so absolutely backwards from Myne's thinking, but I really do love it. And somehow, I don't know exactly how, he ends up volunteering to become Myne's illustrator for the book on Ditter. Yes, Myne now employs someone, the Archduke, the next Archduke, from one of the strongest duchies in the entire country. Because of freaking course she does. And what's more, this dude is kind of obsessed with Myne right now. Not really with Myne herself, more basically when she's doing the dedication whirling, she was so focused on not giving a blessing that she actually performed magnificently, like it was the best whirling any of them had ever seen. And it's honestly kind of interesting because, I mean, this dude must have seen Eglantine do her whirling as the goddess of light, so is he actually saying that Myne was better than her? Like Myne did a more authentic whirling, because that would be absolutely freaking insane. But anyway, he's decided that he needs to paint her. He's trying to recreate the image of her whirling in his room where he could focus on it. And all of the retainers are like, oh my god, he's put so many hours into this. We haven't played Ditter in weeks. We haven't done any practice. He's just painting every single hour of the day. Love it, absolutely love it, and I cannot wait to see his, finished painting. I really hope Myne and Wilfried and Hannelore see it as well, because, oh, that's gonna be amazing. Though he does, make it very clear to his retainers, he's not actually in love with Myne, just captivated by the beauty of that scene. But despite that, his retainers think, hey, maybe you should marry Myne. Even though you have been nothing but antagonistic to her literally since the day you first met, I think you should marry her. Good freaking lord. And while this plan is absolutely and completely insane, he does have some fairly good reasons for wanting to do this. I mean, first off, Elvira wrote a book, Fernestine, Love Story of the Prince, who's forced to marry another, which is literally about Ferdinand, just some details changed. But because the main character was gender swapped and described as having blue hair and golden eyes, everyone thought that was about Myne, and that this was a story about Myne being abused by Sylvester and the Archduke family. And forced to work for them, and forced to, basically run the printing industry and do all of that. So, yeah, Lestalot thinks that Myne is being abused back home. And what's more, even if she wasn't, the fact that Myne has, 40 blessings right now, 40 divine protections, I keep saying blessings, sorry about that, means that the royals are probably going to want to grab her up. And, stealing from Ehrenfest would not be a big deal at all, but stealing from the Ditter Duchy, one of the top-ranked duchies, that's a much bigger issue, and even the royals might be hesitant to, swipe Myne from him. Plus, if Myne actually does end up marrying the royal, she'll become the first prince's third wife, which puts her in a position where she could very easily be killed at any moment. So he is actually trying to defend her, and oh my god above, I'm getting such vibes of, what's his name, from the Duchy trying to defend, trying to save Ferdinand from the temple and from Ehrenfest, who were clearly abusing him, despite the fact that he never said they were abusing him, and refused to marry into another duchy. So, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I'm really hoping this doesn't end as bad as Ferdinand's does, but I'm honestly not sure right now. I mean, technically, Myne marrying into the duchy wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, yes, Lancelot kind of sucks, but I mean, I certainly think the two of them could form an interesting alliance. Her working on books, him doing the illustrations. Plus, that would mean that Hannelore would become Myne's sister, which I don't think either of them would really object to. Though, speaking of Hannelore, while he's plotting all of this, he tells his retainers, whatever you do, don't tell Hannelore I'm planning on marrying her best friend. Which is just so overwhelmingly problematic. Because, Hannelore probably will tell him, no, your plan is stupid, it makes no sense, don't do it. But at the same time, Hannelore has really messed up his plans in the past because her timing really is just the absolute and complete worst. So yeah, I guess next volume is going to be Lancelot trying to court Myne and win her over and marry her. And, I don't know, maybe the royals will do it as well. I mean, actually, yeah, that's true. Hildebrand's currently trying to marry Myne. So Myne has multiple men wanting to marry her, which is weird. So absolutely weird. And please, nobody tell Elvira. Anyway, though, then we have the side stories. First off, fantasy versus reality is Muriela. I've already mentioned most of this. But the part I really do like here is the fact... Oh my god, I forgot to mention line earlier. Muriela actually says, family affection is nothing but an illusion. Oh, that's brutal. Anyway, though, then Roderick goes on to explain more about Myne, and we learn some interesting details here. First off, Myne's attendants actually lose points, actually lose grade points every time she collapses at a tea party, because it's a sign that, she is not being well taken care of. They aren't planning enough ahead of time. And they are told very explicitly never to tell Myne about that, because she would just feel so bad about it. As their main role is to keep Myne calm and happy no matter what, even if they need to lie to her. Oh, that's brutal, but it really does show how much they really do care for her and want her to, be happy, even if she's in a life that she is just so struggling with. Roderick also drills into them some new common sense. Mainly, we value commoners and lay nobles, so don't discriminate. You don't actually need to deal with the orphans or the grey priests or whatever, but if you don't do it, then you'll kind of be considered lesser on the totem pole than Myne's other retainers who are willing to do that. Oh, and then finally we get Finding Purpose, which is about Hortensia, the new librarian, who may actually have the saddest backstory in this series. I know I just said that about Gretchen, but god above, this girl is just... seriously. First off, she served the second prince, who was then murdered. So she ended up serving the third prince, who was then murdered. So she ended up serving the fifth prince, who became king and wasn't murdered, but then she had to enter into political marriage with Frablets, the commander of the knights, and while he isn't necessarily a bad husband, they weren't blessed with children, so she feels like just an absolute and complete failure as a woman with no role or purpose whatsoever. So now she's really excited to be a librarian, to actually do something, to actually serve someone, and she even ends up taking the pledge to become a guardian of knowledge, even though doing so means she can never take a pledge to serve the king, and that's the very reason why the previous librarians were all killed, because they're like, yeah, we can't serve the king. We've sworn to serve knowledge. We've sworn to serve wisdom above all else. There's nothing we can do about it, sorry. And they're like, all right, well, we gotta kill you now. That's fair. That's fair. Hopefully now, though, things have changed, and also, actually, I'm thinking it's kind of concerning because Hannelore and Myne were both told they needed to take keys to open up the third archive, and that would require them to become guardians of knowledge, meaning they would also basically need to say, we serve knowledge and wisdom more than the king. I don't think that'd be an issue for Hannelore, but everyone already thinks Myne is a traitor, so problematic. Very, very problematic. Also, I do just love the fact that Solange basically told the king over and over again, yeah, the magic Bible, it's probably in this room right here. You're not going to come, you're busy, alright, whatever. And then she just stopped trying. So yeah, if people had actually listened to the goddamn freaking librarian, they may have already found the magic Bible. But no, nobody listened to the librarian. Which is just so absolutely perfect for this series. This series so focused on books and knowledge and all that. It's like, yes, the librarian knows everything. Listen to her. Beautiful. A few other things I want to mention. First off, Myne cleaned Hersher's bookcase and even became her own librarian. Love it. In fact, she did such a good job that when Raymond showed up after class, he's like, oh, I must be in the wrong room, and then left. Beautiful. Absolutely freaking beautiful. We also learned that Sylvester has the divine protection of the prank-loving goddess of binding, who weaves women and men together, and the god of trials, who rewards those who overcome ordeals. And he has certainly overcome a lot of ordeals, and as for the binding thing, I mean, he is really, really praying in his school dates to get Florentia to marry him, so yeah, that makes absolute and complete sense. And then we have Myne learn the name of the god of light and darkness, which is really interesting. I mean, I've never really thought about it, but yeah, all the other gods have names. Very, very long, complicated names. But these two gods are always referred to as the god of darkness or the goddess of light, which I found really interesting. It's the kind of thing where you don't really notice it until someone actually points it out to you. Love it. Absolutely love it. Though after she learned their names, for some reason she collapsed, but then got back up and finished her class, which honestly, incredibly impressive, so good for her. And yeah, those are my thoughts on this volume. Like I said, Rowblet, obviously evil, probably the big bad of this series, probably trying to steal the Bible for himself. Myne's got a lot of research endeavors currently in the works. I'm excited to see how they go in part 2, which already came out and I'm getting tomorrow. And I promise you, you won't have to wait 3 months for my next video on the series. I'm hoping to get out in like 2 weeks or so, but I'm not going to rush this book. I have a lot of other things to do. Oh, and speaking of new videos, Reincarnated Slime Season 3 starts next week. I'm going to try and cover that series. I'm not sure I can do every episode, but I will try. I mean, like I said, I'm still working on my second defense, but that's not going to be for a while. I'm going to try to, balance things out. Balance, work and pleasure a bit more moving forward. But please let me think down below, and until next time, peace!